The Senate has passed a short-term funding bill in a 54-46 vote, avoiding a government shutdown, and cuts domestic spending by $13 billion.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire voted to support this bill along with Senator King of Maine. Certainly a concession made by Democrats to allow this vote to advance to the point where it just needed a simple majority to pass.
Yes, the Republicans have funded the government through the end of September. And yes, that $13 billion cut in domestic spending is for the DOGE cuts. I'm Lil Demmie, joined as usual by Uncle Sam.
Perhaps you're wondering how they got through the reconciliation process so quickly.
Well, they didn't use reconciliation, and they didn't need to, thanks to 10 Democratic senators led by Chuck Schumer.
We had all the cards in the world. The cards are you don't vote to advance the CR, and Chuck Schumer folded. We need fighters, we don't need folders, and Chuck Schumer is a folder.
It's a Hobson's choice. Either proceed with the bill before us, or risk Donald Trump throwing America into the chaos of a shutdown. This, in my view, is no choice at all. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Under a shutdown, it is the executive branch, in this case Trump, Musk, Doge, and Vogt, who's head of the OMB, who we all know are authoritarians, vicious, nasty, who would have sole control over what is funded and what isn't. They get to determine what is a, quote, essential service. And they will just cut to smithereens, far greater than in the CR bill, which is a lousy bill. Far greater than that, what could be funded and what couldn't. And there's no recourse. You can't go to court. This is a decision totally in the executive branch. And so it would be devastating. Why is it that Elon Musk and Donald Trump want a government shutdown? So they can take control of the government and do their vicious, horrible things.
There are some problems with Chuck Schumer's theories and assertions. Schumer thinks the bill not passing leads to much more power for the Republicans than if it passes. So why did every congressional Republican vote for it except for Thomas Massie in the House and Rand Paul in the Senate?
Republican Senator Rand Paul voted against this bill, consistent with his stance all week, saying he did not support it.
My hypothesis would be, Steph, that if there is a shutdown and there is just further chaos, that sort of always permeating sense that stuff is unstable right now, that goes and redounds to Donald Trump. The idea that we are going to parse as American people why this happened, why a shutdown would have happened, I think it's overthinking it. I mean, just to borrow another sort of like combat, a sports metaphor, a football metaphor actually, you don't do what the other team wants you to do.
Schumer also claims Elon Musk and Donald Trump want a government shutdown. So why did Trump sign the bill, avoiding the shutdown? If he wanted a shutdown, Trump could have just vetoed any bill to fund the government. And why is Trump complimenting Schumer?
Trump called it a really good and smart move and then said this could lead to something big for the USA, a whole new direction and beginning. All right, I'm going to ask both of you briefly. I mean, seriously, the last thing I think you want, maybe as a Democrat, is for Donald Trump to praise you. What does this mean for Chuck Schumer?
It's not good. I mean, look, the reality is that he has a caucus that wants to fight. You have a number of talented younger members like Murphy and others who really want to lead the party going forward. And so he has to show that, notwithstanding being in his mid-70s, he can lead the party in the Senate. What he's done this week has not shown that. In fact, he's done the opposite.
This is not about ideology anymore. It is about knowing how to fight. It is about taking it to Donald Trump in ways that resonate with the American people. We had them on the ropes. And what does Chuck Schumer do? He throws him a lifeline. For the life of me, I don't understand the strategy here. It is not Chuck Schumer's job, Mr. Leader, to govern. It is your job to obstruct.
But Chuck Schumer cannot obstruct because he is not enough of a dick for that job. As Team America World Police is about to point out, Chuck Schumer can't do it because he is a pussy.
We're dicks! We're reckless, arrogant, stupid dicks! And the Film Actors Guild are pussies. And Kim Jong-il is an asshole. Pussies don't like dicks, because pussies get fucked by dicks. But dicks also fuck assholes. Assholes who just want to shit on everything. Pussies may think they can deal with assholes their way, but the only thing that can fuck an asshole is a dick with some balls.
Of course, this is figurative, and the Democrats have both males and females who can be dicks when necessary.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
There could be some primary challenges or changes, looking for changes in leadership in the Democratic Senate and also in the Congressional Republicans. They may be looking to try to rally support for people to challenge Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator, said at this meeting that he is going to vote for cloture. He is going to vote to allow there to be a simple majority vote. You think that's wrong?
I believe that's a tremendous mistake. Yes.
Why?
I think, well, first and foremost, the American people, if anyone has held a town hall or has seen what has been happening in town halls, American people, whether they are Republicans, Independents, Democrats, are up in arms about Elon Musk and the actual gutting of federal agencies across the board. This continuing resolution codifies much of this chaos that Elon Musk is wreaking havoc on the federal government. It codifies many of those changes. It sacrifices and completely eliminates congressional authority in order to review these impulsive Trump tariffs that he's switching on and off. And on top of that, for folks who are concerned about effectiveness in government, this Republican extreme spending bill removes all of the guardrails and all of the accountability measures to ensure that money is being spent in the way that Congress has directed for it to be spent. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan.
Perhaps you think this sentiment is just coming from angry YouTube randos who don't understand the nuances of politics. Well, are Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders politically inexperienced randos?
Donald Trump and Elon Musk have offered Congress a false choice between a government shutdown or a blank check.
A shutdown will be terrible, but our job is to put the onus on the Republican president, the Republican House, the Republican Senate, the people who control the government.
This is their vehicle for further dismantling the services that people who work for a living depend on in this country. And that's why we're unified in our opposition. And we are not going to buy into this false binary decision.
We're going to show the rest of Democratic House leadership advocating for the Democratic senators filibustering. But first, let's look at what Pelosi, Sanders, and Katherine Clark were saying about Schumer's two-option list being wrong. Apart from the two Schumer mentioned, the Republicans could pass a budget without any Democrats using reconciliation because they have the trifecta. And there's the option the Democrats keep mentioning, which is a clean or otherwise bipartisan continuing resolution. The Republicans can refuse to use reconciliation or bipartisanship, supposedly leaving the Democrats with Schumer's options. This is what happened, where the House Republicans passed a partisan bill and then left town as a negotiating tactic. But refusals can be changed, and Democrats themselves can refuse the most ridiculous option. For that matter, they can refuse the bipartisan option too, and then tell the Republicans they have two options, shutdown or reconciliation. But if they accept the Republicans' bluff like Schumer did, and additionally refuse the government shutdown option, then the Republicans will continue to bluff this way in every funding fight. And the Republicans will get anything they ever want by saying that bill and government shutdown are the only options.
If your argument is that the government can never shut down, then we're going to lose every budget battle going forward. Because this wasn't, I said this on Pod Save America, but just so people understand, this wasn't a quote unquote clean continuing resolution. This wasn't simply to keep the government open for another 6 months. It includes several provisions which give Trump more power to spend money the way he sees fit, not the way Congress appropriated. It absolutely is devastating for Washington, D.C. It demands an immediate $1 billion cut from their budget, which means they're probably going to have to fire teachers, firefighters, sanitation workers, cops. It takes away Congress's ability to stop Trump's unilateral tariffs. Congress has the right to approve or disapprove of unilateral tariffs, that authority was eliminated. There's $1 billion in cuts to domestic programs like education funding, Head Start, community health centers, whatever else. And we swallowed all of these bitter pills for nothing. Like in this negotiation, our position is you get to do all these things you want. You're going to get all this additional power. You get the cuts you want. In exchange, what you're going to give us is keeping the lights on in Donald Trump's government. So what happens 6 months from now? We're going to be in this exact same spot, and what is going to happen? The Republicans already know that there's almost no price we won't pay to keep the government open.
Now, I don't expect our Senate colleagues to lose a lot of sleep or to think a lot about how House Democrats feel. What we're asking them to keep in mind is, how do the American people feel? How will the American people feel when Donald Trump and Elon Musk have more authority and ability to comb through agencies, to fire veterans, to cut benefits? How will the American people feel? And is that a vote you're comfortable owning?
Let's be clear about the party who shuts down the government. It's not Democrats, it's Republicans. Repeatedly. The 1990s, House Republicans led by Newt Gingrich shut down the government twice because they wanted to cut Medicaid. Democrats rejected that position. And Republicans were forced to reopen the government and engage in an unconditional surrender. In 2013, my first year in the Congress, House Republicans, the Tea Party, Ted Cruz, they shut the government down for 14 days in October because they wanted President Obama and Democrats to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They told us my way and the highway. We showed them the highway. And after 14 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender, and the Affordable Care Act is alive and well. And all of us were here and in various forms of leadership during the 35-day government shutdown. It started in December of 2018, and it carried all the way into February or so of 2019. In that shutdown, Donald Trump closed the government because he wanted Democrats to divert taxpayer dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars, to pay for his medieval border wall that he promised Mexico would pay for. And he wanted to take American taxpayer dollars away from defense and national security. We told him to get lost. And after 35 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender. What I'm saying speaks for itself. Check the history. We're on the right side of the American people. We don't want to shut the government down. They do. But we're not afraid of a showdown.
Republicans control Washington. If you go to any random city in any random state in America and ask a random person who runs DC, they'll say Donald Trump. There's no reality that says Democrats will hold the bag if the government shuts down.
There's a Quinnipiac poll out yesterday that says the vast majority of voters would blame either Trump or a Republican Congress for a shutdown. Democrats, only 32% would be blamed. So the point is that Democrats had the Republicans where they wanted them. And if they
32% is probably pretty much Donald Trump's hardcore.
Right.
Here are the 10 senators. Chuck Schumer, we already did. Dick Durbin. Why is Dick Durbin still in the Senate? If you're in Illinois, start thinking about a primary right now. John Fetterman, interviewed him earlier this week. Cortez Masto out of Nevada. Angus King in Maine. What are you doing? Brian Schatz. I usually like Brian Schatz. Gary Peters is retiring already. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Kristen Gillibrand. What is she doing in the Senate? So you almost forget she's in there. Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. And Jeanne Shaheen.
Senator Shaheen noted a few days ago that she would not be seeking re-election.
Brian Schatz is the most disappointing of these because he should have known better.
Well, I've placed a hold on all State Department nominees, and I don't want to exaggerate our power here. We lost the Senate 53-47, so eventually they will get all of their nominees, but this will, gum up the works and make it a little more difficult for them. I think we need to use whatever leverage we have, which over the next several weeks is pretty minimal, because when it comes to nominations, they have their majority, and I think we've seen with RFK Jr., with Tulsi Gabbard, with Kash Patel, but they're not going to block any of these nominees. They're just not. They're going to get their cabinet. After that, Democrats in the United States Senate are needed in order to enact a spending bill, in order to do any number of things. So it's one of those things where in the first month of any presidency, the legislative branch is way less relevant. Then there's a kind of recalibration of they're going to have to start to talk to us. And I think we intend to use our leverage. Now, I'm not here to preview exactly how we're going to use our leverage.
But Chuck Schumer is the worst because he probably whipped some of those other votes. And because he's generally an embarrassing old weirdo who drags down the Democratic brand.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time. I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. Thank you, everybody.
Well, we may not be aroused, but we are very worked up about how it's time to Chuck Schumer.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.